Hello my fellow Ghoul Renegade, and welcome back to a brand new video of Ghoulish Reacts. And we are back with the third and final part of the Backrooms Season 2. So now, the last video we watched was called Reunion. And pretty much to sum up that video, Marvin, one of the scientists of Async, and his team decided to finally cross the pitfalls room. They boarded all of it up and they crossed into the next room. And they actually came into an encounter with another Async employee who was believed to be dead for months. And now we are at the final episode of Season 2 called Damage Control. So, without further ado, let's get into it.
Mark, this is Team A. Do you read us?
Hey team, this is Mark. I read you. What do you say? We need immediate arms support in room 14C. My team now being held at gunpoint by a hostile. I repeat, please send immediate arms support to room 14C.
So that's the scenario we just heard.
For that panel, it should connect.
Oh no, that's not good.
What's that?
What was that? An entity. Oh, okay, so no, it wasn't an entity, but it was the shotgun blast being heard from all the way across the back rooms. That's interesting. Oh, Mark is dead. He's gone, bro. Where did that guy run off to? I kind of want to know. Wow. Okay, so now we're looking at security footage. Well, there's a dude running. He's running pretty quickly. Oh no! Yeah, there's the guy. He's shouting at him. Okay, he's pretty much, I think that whole conversation was like, I'm going through this threshold and you're not going to stop me because I have a weapon. That's pretty much how that whole conversation went. So now he's back through the threshold and back into the Async facility. So he's made it home, essentially, after being trapped in the backrooms for who knows how long, months, at least. Holy crap, he's a fast runner, my lord. This is a man on a mission right here. I don't know who he's going to hurt, but he is moving at an incredible clip. Oh, security's been alerted. They're chasing this dude down. Oh, he threw away the gun? What? My lord. I just gotta say it. The people in Kane's universe run extremely fast. I mean, like, this is more interesting than any, like, chase that I've seen. Like, real-life chase. I swear, when people get into chases in real life, like, they go abnormally slower than you think they would. But in this, man, they're, like, moving at Sonic the Hedgehog speeds. They're just, like... they're just, like, running through, weaving, wobbling, all this stuff. Like, look how fast these security guards are moving. It's crazy. But I love it all at the same time. It's interesting. So he crossed into another threshold, I think. Or he sealed himself behind a door.
I'd like to thank you all once again for your patience on this. It has been a stressful 15 hours for all of us here, and while he cannot currently be with us, Dr. Beck sends his apologies regarding the numerous inconveniences caused by our decision to keep you here overnight. Now, it appears that the situation has reached a point of some stability. We're still looking into a few things, but I feel that we can now properly address what occurred without running into speculation. What happened last night should not have happened. Not here, not with us. What occurred was a gross misunderstanding that was the result of some severe information mismanagement. Even now, I believe most of you still have an incomplete idea of what took place last night. So before I fill you in, I need to address the fact that there has been information deliberately withheld from many of you on the project.
Oh, so this guy is pretty much revealing everything. So he's trying to be as clear as he possibly can. So there was some information mismanagement and also some information being withheld from everybody who's working on the KV-31 project, which the KV-31 project, just to give you guys a little bit of a refresher, is everything to do with the Backrooms, the Threshold, the Backrooms, all of that. Everything that Async has been doing up to this point is all involved with Project KV-31.
Now, these choices were not made lightly and were done for only the best of reasons. However, I want to make it abundantly clear that following the events of last night, it has been proven to us that that method of conducting ourselves was not viable.
No, not at all.
So, I'm coming to you now to correct this mistake and begin delivering the authentic order of events as we understand them. On the morning of March 1st, a team of 4 researchers was sent into the complex to conduct a routine layout analysis.
Okay.
George Levy, Marvin Lee, Ronald McCarthy, and Peter Tench.
Okay, so Marvin was also on this investigation team, and I remember that they were being sent in. I remember that episode. And that was it was before the pitfalls, because Marvin has his own encounter with an entity. So it was George Levy, Marvin Lee, Ronald McCarthy, and Peter Tench.
At around 12:25 p.m., the group realized that they had lost track of Tench while traversing the previously
Okay, so Peter was the one that went missing. So there's all 4 of them, and they lost track of him.
accessed branch of hallways. As you'll recall, this prompted an immediate withdrawal of response back to standard, followed by several days of significant search efforts. However, those ultimately yielded nothing, and as far as any of us were concerned, Tench had simply vanished, leaving no physical trace. Now, for obvious reasons, that wasn't something that we could disclose to the public, so roughly 2 weeks following his disappearance, our security team was forced to put together a more acceptable cause of death that would keep attention away from this institute and provide closure to the family.
Oh.
So that is all close to common.
So what Async pretty much did was they covered up Tench's death. And they pretty much said that he got into a quote-unquote lab accident involving Project KV-31. Well, okay, not so much involving Project KV-31, but he got into some kind of accident and it killed him. Because they couldn't tell the public, nor could they tell his family that, look, we're doing this thing, and your boy disappeared. But if I do recall correctly, he did make his way back at one point in time. He entered one of the security checkpoints. I just didn't know the guy's name. He entered one of the security checkpoints in one of the videos at the end of Season 1, but apparently he still didn't get back in even after that.
Knowledge, I presume. Not all of you were with us at the time of the incident, however, you're certainly aware of the effects it has had on our internal procedures over the past few months. Regardless, that was where Tench's involvement in this came to an end. Or, at least, that's what we assumed. Because on May 8th, at approximately 5:30 p.m., a motion alert was sent out from the complex, which was closed off at the time. One of our senior engineers was sent down to assess the situation, and discovered a male dressed in hazard gear who we were able to identify as Peter Tench.
Yeah, see, I do remember.
Following this discovery, Tench was moved to a secure room on this floor, where over the following days, a select group of doctors were able to administer a panel of tests in order to determine what had happened to Peter in the 2 months he'd been gone. Those tests...
Okay, so now we know exactly the time frame of when he was gone. He was gone for 2 whole months. Okay, so Peter Tench, if you guys do remember from the 1 episode, he is walking with Marvin Lee and all of the other researchers. The only reason why I'm mentioning Marvin by name is because Marvin has always been a consistent character for at least 3 to 4 to 5 of the videos. Marvin has always been a consistent character. So that's why I'm mentioning him, because he's kind of a main character in a way. Other than Kane, who kick-started the whole series. So he was with... And then all of a sudden, he just disappears. Like in the footage, he's filming. He was Marvin wasn't the camera guy, but Peter was. Peter had the camera on him, and then boom, all of a sudden, as soon as they're crossing in this one hallway, boom, everything shakes and he just disappears. And he's like in another part of the building entirely. And Peter tries to go and reach out to them, but they don't see him. But then all of a sudden they're gone. And so he's assuming he's by himself. So it's like he kind of got like teleported to another part of the Backrooms. How? I don't know. Maybe there's some like weird wormhole in the Backrooms. I don't know. But he was gone for a long while, and then he breaks back in, and then he's finally back. So he was gone for 2 whole months before they decided to run tests on him and make sure he wasn't infected with the bacteria. So we're going to find that out now.
Very little useful information. By all measures, Peter appeared to be in excellent health. However, we were still provided one very useful tool in understanding how the situation unfolded from his perspective. Some of you may recall that on the day of his disappearance, Tench was his team's designated camera operator. Well, when we recovered him, he still had that camera in his possession, and in fact had documented the entire ordeal. The footage will be presented in its entirety later today. However, for the purpose of this discussion, I will only be highlighting key events. This is the hallway where Peter was last seen. They're not in view, but you can hear the others walking behind him. Now, as he approaches the bench on the right here, pay close attention to the audio.
Guys, can you hear this? Guys, can you hear this? Hey!
And we're back.
Hey!
And see, look, all of a sudden they just disappear.
Now, I'd like to save the discussion for afterwards, but what you just saw is what we believe to be the moment that Peter was instantaneously transported 2 months forward in time.
Oh, okay. So he wasn't teleported physically. He was teleported 2 months ahead. Wow. That's weird. So there are some really weird time properties going on within the Backrooms. Because the Backrooms kind of just like sucked him up and just teleported him 2 months into the future, essentially. Thus leading Async to take the precautions that they did in covering up his death and or his disappearance. Interesting.
Following that abrupt flash you just saw, Tench proceeds back out into the hallway in search of his team, but is without any indication of their presence. The next 30 or so minutes of the tape follow a fairly panicked Tench as he attempts to navigate his way back to the threshold. He does obviously find his way back. However, the threshold appears not as he knows it, but as it appeared on the date of May 8th. And this ties us back to the moment when we recovered him. So, to summarize, from his point of view, he had only been inside the complex for several hours. So to him, all of the new developments surrounding the threshold were completely foreign. Luckily, though, as I already mentioned, there were people available to manage the situation as it unfolded.
Okay, so from Peter's perspective, he was only in the Backrooms for a couple of hours, but in reality, he was in there for 2 whole months. And so Async, within those 2 whole months, made major advancements in terms of the threshold and adding all the security checkpoints and all that stuff, and adding on to stuff that they are, and even exploring more into the Backrooms in that time. So all of that was completely unknown to Peter. That's pretty interesting. I like that.
And over the course of the following days, we were able to properly sit down with Peter and work with him to gain a collective understanding of what had happened. However, there was still the very significant fact that Mr. Tench was considered legally deceased as a result of the cover story, and reversing that would be no easy feat. He understood this and was willing to cooperate while we looked for a way to reintegrate him without raising suspicion. Unfortunately, though, that process ended up taking quite a bit longer than we had anticipated.
Okay.
And all the while, Peter was sucked out here, waiting idly by. We did our best to keep him engaged, but it is hard to combat the effects of cruel sensory deprivation on the human brain, and as a result...
So he suffered cruel sensory deprivation.
Peter leader's mental state took a toll. Not to a degree that was outright concerning at first, but around the end of week 2, we noticed that he was starting to exhibit a number of behaviors common in patients diagnosed with paranoid schizophrenia.
Whoa, holy crap. So the Backrooms essentially gave this man a whole illness. So he was fine at first when he came out. And so now after he's come out, he started being diagnosed with a paranoid schizophrenia. And his behaviors started slowly changing after he finally came out of the other side. Interesting.
We don't have reason to believe that Mr. Tench was afflicted with that condition.
No.
Whatever the case, while he didn't express it outright, from what we could gather, he appeared to have deluded himself into believing that he was still inside some sort of illusion created by the complex, and that we were secretly looking to do him harm.
Oh.
This all came to a head on the night of the 22nd, when, while Tench was finally about to be transferred to a temporary above-ground residence, he broke away from us and, using stolen credentials, forced his way back into the complex, where he would go undiscovered until just last night.
Oh, so that's why he was there. So they did recover. Okay, so Tench is the original. Okay, so they did recover him. But they were going to send him to an off-site place. And he didn't like that. So he stole someone else's credentials and forced himself back into Threshold. So because of his schizophrenia that wasn't within him before, he thought that everything that he experienced in a way was fake. That he was still in the back rooms itself, even though he wasn't. He was back in society. He was back in the real world. So he forced himself back into the back rooms. And then he was later discovered by Marvin and his team once again when they were doing their research.
When he ambushed and violently attacked Team B in room 14C, leaving Dr. Bloom in critical condition.
Oh, so he didn't die. Okay, so he's just in critical condition.
We can presume that during the 2 or so days Tench spent in the complex, he let go of the idea that he could somehow escape through an alternate threshold, but still held on to the belief that all of us here were working to trap him in some way, despite our actions saying exactly the opposite. Immediately after firing a single shot from the Remington 870 to Dr. Bloom's side, Tench fled the scene and headed to the Threshold outpost, where he would turn the weapon on several more of you while progressing to Standard and through the lower offices. Given the abrupt and chaotic nature of the unfolding situation, it took our security team several moments longer than it ideally should have to figure out what was happening. But thankfully, while Tench was passing through one of the empty labs next to storage, Dr. Maxwell was able to act quickly and managed to disarm him, accidentally discharging the weapon into the ceiling in the process.
Oh, jeez.
However, Tench still managed to avoid apprehension, fleeing into the maintenance wing and evading our security staff by taking the freight elevator to the surface.
Oh, jeez.
Now, this situation could have played out very badly, given the potential number of witnesses around the building at the time. But, luckily for everyone involved, as far as we can tell, Tench was not noticed as he exited the property. Around 5 minutes later, our security team made it to the ground floor and began a thorough sweep in the direction of the hillside where cameras had last observed Tench. Now, there's no easy way to say this other than to just say it. I am terribly sorry to inform you all, but Mr. Tench was found deceased halfway down the hillside.
Oh.
The result of an extreme blow to the head. It appears that while he was running through some brush, he failed to anticipate a sudden dip in the ground and tragically fell forward into a large rock.
Oh.
Given the circumstances, it was not something any of us could have anticipated or prevented.
Okay, so he took the surface elevator, got all the way up to the surface. So the whole acing facility is underground. That makes sense. I mean, I kind of like that idea, that it's all underground, so therefore they can conduct their experiments in private. That makes sense. And so he was probably, I'm assuming Peter was running back to his family. He was just trying to get back home as fast as he possibly could. After, quote unquote, believing that he escaped the Backrooms, even though he did. But because of the schizophrenia, he didn't believe that he was in reality. He believed that he was still trapped in the Backrooms. And so he was just doing, in his own mind, what he needed to survive, even though that's not the actual case. So he was running through the brush, and all of a sudden he trips. There was a dip in the grass, and he slams his head up against a rock and dies. Yeah, that's something that's pretty non-preventable, to be honest. Something any of us could have anticipated or prevented. Yeah, no, that's not. Yeah, that's wow. Dang. I kind of like how Kane's wrapping this all up, like how we're kind of getting a really good conclusion to everything that we've kind of seen so far. Because the dude disappearing was always my biggest question, like, did he really ever come back? And I love how this video is explaining that, yes, he did come back, but then he also disappeared once again. And it's like, oh, the trouble that one man can cause you is just, it's crazy.
The tragedy of the entire situation undoubtedly remains, but Dr. Tench, regardless of how troubled he was in his final days, was a really man who gave his all to this project. He would certainly not want us hindering it in his name. What we're doing here is so much bigger than any one person. It is the work of a unified effort, and we need to ensure that that is never lost sight of. That we hold on to the pre-established notion that Peter is and has been deceased. That is done, and there is nothing more to be extracted.
Huh. So, even though that he actually did die for real, and they use the deceased as a cover-up thing, they're still going to stick with the notion that he is deceased, because he actually did die now. So they did plan to return him to his family, with all good intentions, in a way. But because of his actions, and now that he actually did die, now they have to keep him dead and deceased. Oh, hey bro, you're getting a phone call. Anyone gonna answer that phone? It's bothering me. Pick it up. Come on, pick it up. Something tells me no one's gonna answer that phone. Pick it up. Now we're getting a slow zoom in. Let's see. The video basically ends right there with one final ring. So yeah, wow, that one was really interesting. There was so much story-wise in that video. Yeah, that one was really good. I liked it. And I think that's a very great conclusion to Season 2. Now, whether Kane's going to make more in the future, I don't know, man. I don't know. I don't know if Kane's going to make more Backroom stuff in the future other than the movie that he's currently working on in the background. But yeah, other than that, I think that was a great conclusion to Season 2, and it really wrapped up a lot of the questions that I personally had, and I hope it kind of wraps up a lot of the questions that you guys probably had watching this with me. Because, you know, I mean, we're all watching this together. I mean, it's only fair that you guys are going to have questions as well, just as much as I did, or maybe some of you guys might even have more questions than I did. But I kind of like how Kane wrapped all of that up into one solitary, you know, just very good explanation video of, like, what happened to this dude and why things happened the way they did. And now, I granted in other videos of the Backrooms, I've talked bad about Async in the past. Like, I've talked bad about the company because it's like, I've always, you know, like, oh, it's the evil, stereotypical business, you know, as always, as in a lot of stories, it usually is the corporation that's usually the big bad. But in this episode, you can kind of sympathize with them in a way. So it shows that, granted, while some of the things that Async does within this series may be unconventional or very odd to the normal person on the outside looking in, not everything that they are doing is 100% bad. Like, granted, I know a lot of people go with the concept that corruption corrupts absolutely, and that is true. But, like, in this episode, you can kind of sympathize with them. Like, they didn't intend for any of this to happen. Granted, it's the type of research that they're doing is what caused this. But they didn't really intend Peter to disappear. And they wanted to, honestly, put him back with his family. But because of this mental condition that Peter had, this delusion that he made himself believe, things just went totally out of control and out of anyone's control. And so I think Async was really trying to honestly make a really good effort to reunite Peter with his family. But just the way things happened, there was nothing else that they could possibly do. Now, was it kind of shady that they said he was dead when he quote-unquote disappeared? Yeah, just a little bit. I believe so. But I don't think everything that they did to try to rectify the situation was bad in any sort of way. That's kind of odd that the power just went out. Well, anyway, guys, that's all the time, unfortunately, I have today for this video. So please make sure to like, comment, and subscribe. Hit the bell for notifications when I upload new videos. Make sure to follow my social media links down in the description below to join the Ghoul Renegade. And I'll see you guys next time. Bye-bye!